Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Gonzii and today we are going to be reacting to another casual geographic video, man. This time called When Reality's Weirder Than Fiction. Without further ado, let's react to this thing, man. Let's go. That's fucking
it's definitely
weird.
some type of monkey called a marmoset, but I really don't know what in the Okay, full disclosure, I just googled the image marmoset and just kept scrolling until I found it. This is a silver marmoset. Except this one looks like he'd ruin your life and your property value if he ever gets wet. You can find them in the Amazon rainforest, primarily in Brazil. As marmosets, they're one of the most fun-sized monkeys in the world. The biggest ones are only like 12 ounces. It's about as heavy as a can of soup. Like us, they're omnivores, meaning they'll eat anything that isn't nailed down, including fruits, bird eggs, insects, and the occasional lizard. And I know what you're probably thinking.
Lizard, bro.
No, they're horrible pets. They bite and they have claws. Because they're social, it wouldn't be enough to have one, you'd have to adopt an entire family. Silvers are also loud and they'll shout as a group to mark their territory. Another way they claim their hood is by Febrezing the area with a scent produced from their swimsuit area. So, if you want a screaming, biting, peeing loudspeaker in a baby face package, yeah, they're the pet for you. Or you know, you could just have kids. Basically the same, but only one of them gives you tax breaks.
Exactly. What is that?
I actually had to go back and check. You've actually been doing this for 87 days, and I'm impressed. That also means everyone can blame you for this video. This is Creatinata's Genghis, but it's also known as the hen type of tentacle moth. And it's as real gets. And it's found in,
Bro, how is that made?
Exactly
that was made in a lab, bro.
Australia.
What?
Now, what this moth
of course
is doing
it's
is
fucking
actually
Australia.
harmless. Those are sense organs that produce pheromones, and pheromones are basically a Batman symbol for horny moths. When they're not trying to get laid, they look a lot less like they were airdropped by Satan. Also, tentacle moths aren't the only ones. A lot of butterflies and moths also have these scent glands called cormata that they use to get and keep a female's attention. It's also called a hair pencil. When a female shows interest, the male will seal the deal by fanning its hair pencil, basically Febrezing her with pheromones to get her to respond by flicking her antenna. And when it's not standing at attention, it's stored in the male's abdomen until he eats it. That was a wild sentence. Lots of butterflies and moths have it. This one just looks like it came from the wrong side of Wattpad. Florida has a serious herpes monkey problem that nobody knows what to do about. Like all bad things in the world, it's somehow our fault. It all started in the 30s when 6 rhesus macaques, these guys, were released on a small island on what is now Silver Spring State Park in Florida. Guess they wanted to make it a Tarzan type thing, but here's where they f***ed up. They could swim. As soon as the monkeys touched down, they swam to the mainland and started wilding out.
They're attacking
After
people,
years of plot development, what started with 6 monkeys has now escalated to over 600. And a good number of those monkeys are Ubers for herpes.
600 monkeys, bro.
Will shed the virus through their saliva. So not only do we have herb-drooling monkeys, it means all it would take is one love bite for you to get absolutely f***ing folded. And if you do manage to catch it, symptoms can include severe brain damage and an empty seat at your family. Now, full disclosure, it is incredibly rare to catch the herb from a monkey. Last time a person got hashtagged by one was in 1997, and that was in a lab. That doesn't mean they're not a menace. The more these monkeys associate humans with food, the more they lose their fear of us, the less they're obligated to give. There have already been cases of monkeys pressing entire families for food, and it's only going to get worse. The worst part of it all is, I just checked today's date. I'm just kidding, it's all real. You raggedy bitch.
Lord, that's crazy. Oh, this jellyfish is wild. I've seen videos of this before.
The budget for NASA is about $26 million today. The budget for exploring the nonsense in the ocean is less than 20, and this is probably why. That is a deep-sea giant phantom jellyfish. By giant, I mean their bell area can be 3 feet wide, and their arms can go to 3.3.
They are wild.
Just a smudge. 33 feet long. I'm going to give you some time to guess where Nemo's paralysis demon was found. If you said Florida, right idea, wrong coast. It was actually California, specifically the Monterey Bay. Except these are usually found a good 22,000 feet below the surface. That's about 6,700 meters and about 15.5 Empire State Buildings. It's believed they drag their 30-foot arms like nets to snatch up anything that f***s around and finds out and bring it up to its mouth. It's also believed they eat small fish and plankton, but it could eat the devil's ass for all we know, because there isn't a whole lot we do know about them. In the over 120 years we've known about them, we've only ever seen them in live action about 100 times. Mostly because they live in an area code where the water pressure would turn you into a chalk outline faster than Will Smith turned himself into a meme. Not only that, but because they live in the midnight zone of the ocean, where most underwater f***ery calls home, most submarines can't even function that far. Definitely one of those animals that aren't as bad when you know what they are. The first person to ever see it 100% pulled up to unemployment the next day.
Facts, man.
Oh, this is gonna haunt me. Nerds of TikTok, what is an animal fact that you know will disturb me?
The only warning you're gonna get. There's a type of spider that can survive underwater for more than a day. Tosa fulvolianata is a wolf spider that typically lives in salt marshes and places like that. In an experiment, a scientist wanted to see just how long a wolf spider could last underwater. So he put it under and just waited for it to die. Basically, he waterboarded an animal.
Wow.
It's okay because science. Anyway, it took almost 24 hours because the experiment couldn't end until the spider did. Except when he did take the spider out, it came back to life.
Wow.
At first, it started slowly twitching, but before the scientist could dial his therapist, it started moving around like it didn't just Eurostep death. And that's because these spiders will go into a state of suspended animation. The same one water bears are famous for. When the spider knows there isn't enough oxygen, it'll switch its metabolism from aerobic to anaerobic, and in case you were wondering, that is not fucking normal. It's like an optional coma. In the experiment, 16 hours underwater was light work for most of the spiders. But at least one of the wolf spiders lasted 40 hours underwater and lived with his friends about it. Spider lasted a shift short of 2 days underwater, and that is now a fact you get to live with. You probably don't have to, because they're only really found over it. Did you know some spiders can fly?
Yeah, it's jumping
How
spiders.
fucked up would it be if I just ended the video like that? Spiders will do this thing where they'll climb as high as they can and then shoot a thread of silk into the air. It's called ballooning, by the way. The silk becomes a DIY parachute that carries the spider up in the air where it goes just about wherever the wind, or God, blows it. And some spiders get disrespectful mileage at it. Sailors have reported finding spiders under ship's sails almost 1,000 miles away from land. You know those weather balloons? Scientists have found spiders on those weather balloons 15,000 feet in the air. And in some places in Australia, so many spiders will travel in the air that people will think it's snowing when it's actually just a spider still covering the ground. And sometimes millions of spiders will invade a country. There's a type of spider found originally in Georgia that's found its way halfway across the world, possibly by traveling through shipping containers. Because the Joro spider is basically immune to cold, they started multiplying and became an invasive species. And because of the whole flying thing, there's no immigration control strong enough.
Those are spiders!
But luckily, so far, they're only found in remote parts of the world.
My uncle would have had an heart attack, bro.
There was a group of animals so disgusting that not only did they traumatize a researcher, all of his studies about them had to be hidden from the public. British explorer George Levick literally messed around and found out when he joined an Antarctica expedition in 1911. That's when he came across a colony of Adelie penguins, and he decided to stay and observe them for an entire breeding season. He would regret that, because he found out that Adelie penguins are 50 shades of morally bankrupt.
Oh, they are,
He watched in shock as the male penguins would attempt to mate with literally anything. This included other males, females too injured to resist, and he even witnessed them make moves on unaccompanied and very much underage chicks.
Oh my God.
It was so vile that in his journals, George referred to them as hooligan cocks. It didn't stop there, in fact it got worse. There were multiple cases where George watched a down bad bird score with a decomposing corpse, like to the point where males were fighting over it. Because apparently not having a pulse doesn't mean you're off the table. Just to see how far they'd go, he took the frozen head of a decapitated female and propped it against a mound of ice. The answer was far enough. And in one down egregious case, a male mated with the ground to completion. He also learned that if male Adelies understood the signs that a female wants to mate, they could not care less about it. In one case, a female was so crippled that she couldn't even walk, she could only painfully crawl on her belly. The male walked up to the handicapped female, and in 60 seconds he managed to destroy everything George thought he knew about them. He wrote down every messed up thing he had learned, but because the contents of his research were so graphically descriptive, the British Museum of Natural History refused to publish it and vaulted it. It was finally published almost 100 years later, meaning man's got traumatized in every way and didn't even live long enough to see his work get recognized. Oh, but the worst part? These guys are Adelie penguins. And you can probably guess who the light work is.
Stitch this with a fact so ridiculous you didn't believe it until you looked it up yourself.
So North American porcupines love climbing trees. Only problem is they're not good at it.
Oh,
and porcupines will just fall out of trees so often that they'll end up piercing themselves with some of the 30,000 quills to protect them in the first place. And apparently porcupines friendly fire themselves so often that their quills are coated with antibiotic grease. And this grease prevents any self-inflicted wounds from getting infected since it inhibits bacteria like tetanus and gangrene. Basically, porcupines are so clumsy and so stubborn that God or nature, whatever you believe in, had to give them a healing buff just to keep them alive. Also, a porcupine once fell out of a tree and onto a woman's head. And if that ain't some final destination, I don't know what is. What's a common fact that everyone actually gets wrong? I'll go first. Opossums don't actually play dead. They involuntarily go unconscious when they're in danger. And during this stress nap, their heart rate and breathing will slow down, they'll drool, and they'll even release a nasty foul smell to let whatever scared them so bad think they already expired. Basically, they factory reset themselves out of fear. Only thing missing is the... Opossums can cosplay as a corpse for up to 4 hours. But they're not pretending, they actually go into an anxiety coma as a coping mechanism. You know what? I respect that. You've been wrong about Pikachu your entire life. Pikachu! Why? So a lot of people think Pikachu is based on the real-life animal called a pika, which is basically just a travel-sized rabbit. But the OG graphic and character designer Atsuko Nishida said she modeled his original design after squirrels. The reason was because she said she was just really into squirrels. She wanted him to store electricity in his cheeks the same way squirrels do with food. She also wanted him to have a long tail that she could turn into a lightning bolt. She wouldn't find a pika. If he's not a pika, how'd he get his name? Probably typing. Well, it was based on a Japanese word to describe a sparkling sound, pika pika, and the word to describe the sound a mouse makes, which is choo choo. So in English, Pikachu's name would be something like Zap Squeak. Also, fun fact, Pikachu's
Squeak.
original name was going to be Jean-Luc. I can see it.
Not the baguette, bro. That's wild.
So baby seals can actually change the pitch of their voice and even raise their voice to be better understood. Two things we used to think only humans could do. It's a bunch of boring sciencey stuff that I'm pretty sure you didn't get on TikTok to hear, but when you change the pitch of your voice to match whatever environment you're in, that's called vocal plasticity.
Okay.
It's like how you wouldn't use the same pitch and tone with a customer as you would with your friends.
Nice.
I would know, I worked in retail and I was fluent in codes, harbor and Weddell seals,
Voice
and match them in with the
plasticity,
pitch
yeah?
of human voices and even the melodies of songs. It's how after years of being raised by a middle-aged New England man, Hoover the seal ended up sounding like one. Also, baby seals will speak up when they think it's too loud around them. When you raise your voice on the phone because it's too noisy around you, that's called the Lombard effect. Well, in an experiment, seals would actually raise their voice to be better understood if the environment around them was too loud.
Okay.
It might not seem like much, but remember we're talking about seals here. And if that doesn't impress you, they can also do this.
Can I get a woo?
So yeah, guys, that was another banger by Casual Geographic, bro. Learned a lot, especially with the seals part. Traumatized by the Adelaide Penguins, but it is what it is. Nature is a bitch. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching the video, man. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope you had a phenomenal weekend. And as always, before you go, don't forget to yours on the channel, man. Come on, bro. Keep God first as always. Drink water, go tell somebody you love them, and if you're here, you know what to do, man. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. My name is Gonzii, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.